On February 2, 2009, Christine Ross took her dog Ruka for a morning walk across Albuquerque's West Mesa. The landscape around them appeared empty. Dry earth, unfinished roads, scattered homes sitting at the edge of a vast New Mexico desert. Then, Ruka stopped beside the trail. Something pale was protruding from the ground. Christine had no way of knowing what it was. She photographed the object and sent the image to her sister, a registered nurse. A short time later, her sister responded with a disturbing possibility. It looked like a human bone. Christine called the police. Officers arrived and confirmed her sister was right. But the discovery wasn't the end of a mystery. It was the beginning of one. As investigators searched the surrounding ground, they found more. One discovery became two, then three. Over the following weeks, they uncovered the remains of 11 women and one unborn child, buried in makeshift graves across a small section of the mesa. Someone had been using the desert as a secret burial ground. The scale of it stunned Albuquerque. Police formed a special task force. Forensic experts began the difficult work of identifying people who had been missing for years. The media gave the unidentified offender a chilling name, the West Mesa Bone Collector. But that name creates the image of a known criminal, someone whose face, history, and identity are understood. In reality, police did not know who had placed the women there. They still don't. The victims range from 15 to 32 years old. Their names were Jamie Barella, Monica Candelaria, Victoria Chavez, Virginia Cloven, Selania Edwards, Cinnamon Elks, Doreen Marquez, Julie Nieto, Veronica Romero, Evelyn Salazar, and Michelle Valdez. Michelle was pregnant. Her unborn child was found with her. These women weren't strangers connected only by the place they were found. Many had lived in or passed through the same vulnerable communities. Police said 10 had connections to drugs or sex work. The 11th, 15-year-old Jamie Barella, had no known involvement in either. That distinction mattered to the investigation. It should never be used to decide whose disappearance deserved attention. Every one of them had a name. Every one of them had a life before she became part of this case. Jamie Barella disappeared after a family gathering in 2004. She left with her 27-year-old cousin, Evelyn Salazar, reportedly planning to visit a park near San Mateo and Gibson in southeast Albuquerque. Neither returned. Their family was left with two disappearances on the same day, and no explanation. Years later, DNA testing identified both Jamie and Evelyn among the West Mesa victims. Selania Edwards was also only 15. She was originally from Lawton, Oklahoma, reported as an endangered runaway in 2003. Investigators later learned she had appeared in Colorado, possibly staying at a motel in Aurora. Somehow, she traveled hundreds of miles farther south into New Mexico. What happened during that journey remains unclear. Then there was Michelle Valdez, 22, remembered by her father as friendly, someone who loved to sing. After she was identified, he kept returning to the place where she'd been found. For the families, the discovery created two conflicting emotions. They finally knew where their loved ones had gone, but they still didn't know who had taken them or why. There was another troubling part of the story. The pattern may have been noticed before the graves ever were. Cold case investigator Ida Lopez had spent years reviewing missing women reports in Albuquerque. By around 2005, she had reportedly begun recognizing similarities between several disappearances, women vanishing from similar environments. Some who knew one another, many disappearing during a concentrated period of time. Lopez started collecting their names. 4 years later, when the West Mesa victims were identified, many of those same names appeared again. The discovery in 2009 hadn't created the pattern. It confirmed what one investigator had already feared. To understand how 11 women could vanish without anyone being caught, investigators had to study the mesa itself. In the early 2000s, the burial area was largely undeveloped. It sat within Albuquerque's expanding city limits, but remained isolated enough to offer privacy. A person who knew the landscape could enter in darkness with few witnesses and little traffic. By 2006, that was changing. Residential development was moving in. Roads were being cut. Drainage patterns were shifting. The empty land was becoming exposed. And 2006 is also the year the pattern of disappearances tied to this case appears to stop. That's not a coincidence investigators could afford to ignore. Either the person responsible for these deaths stopped because the desert had run out of privacy to offer them, or the person responsible was no longer alive to keep using it. Police began looking at people who had lived near the Mesa or who had known some of the missing women. Several names entered the investigation. Most were eventually eliminated. But two men received particular attention. The first was Lorenzo Montoya. Montoya lived only a few miles from the burial area. Police were aware of previous violence involving women in vulnerable circumstances. Investigators found recordings in his home showing unidentified women, and later released selected images hoping someone could recognize them. Then there was the timing. In 2006, the same year the Mesa lost its privacy, Montoya killed a young woman at his home. During the confrontation that followed, he was killed by someone who'd come looking for her. He died about 3 years before the graves were found. The location was close, the history was disturbing, and the timing lined up exactly with the moment the disappearances stopped. In 2025, an Albuquerque Police Department commander publicly named Montoya as the department's prime suspect. But suspicion is not proof. No charge was ever filed against him in connection with the 11 West Mesa victims. Police have not announced a conclusive DNA match. His death also created an unusual obstacle. Investigators wanted to run his DNA through CODIS, the national database, to check for connections to other unsolved crimes. But as of early 2025, police said New Mexico law prevented uploading DNA from certain deceased suspects who were never formally charged. A proposed legal change could allow that search to happen even with a suspect already dead. Until then, Montoya remains exactly what police have called him: a prime suspect, not a confirmed killer. The second person of interest was Joseph Blee, convicted of serious crimes unrelated to West Mesa. He'd worked in landscaping. During the excavation, investigators reportedly found a plant tag near the Burial Area 1 that had moved through a nursery supply chain tied to businesses Blee was known to use. At first, it looked like exactly the kind of small object that breaks a cold case open. Detectives combed through thousands of nursery receipts trying to trace it. They couldn't conclusively connect it to Blee. The tag could have arrived through landscaping waste, construction debris, or someone with no connection to him at all. Suspicious, but not an answer to the one question that mattered. Who actually brought it there? Blee's criminal history and reported contact with vulnerable women kept investigators interested. But no DNA match has ever been announced. Blee has denied involvement. Once again, a person who looks suspicious, and not enough evidence to prove responsibility. Other names surfaced over the years and led nowhere. One man reportedly had photographs of missing women, but died before the graves were found. A photographer in Missouri had his properties searched and thousands of images reviewed before police cleared him entirely. None of it produced an arrest. The word bone collector implies one person. The evidence has never actually proven that. Investigators have also examined whether trafficking or multiple offenders played a role, and the reward still seeks the person, or persons, responsible. Then came a harder question. Police announced that 8 additional missing women could possibly be connected to this case. Not confirmed as victims, only similar enough to keep investigating. Which raises the question no one wants to answer. Were the 11 women on the Mesa the whole case, or only the ones who happened to be found? Years passed without an arrest. By the 15th anniversary, APD had logged more than 1,400 tips, completed 7 additional land searches, and run another FBI crime analysis. The identity of the person responsible was still unknown. In 2020, the city turned the burial site into Women's Memorial Park, It carries the victims' names and a stone honoring Michelle Valdez's unborn child. A place once used to erase 11 lives became a place built to remember them. But a memorial isn't an answer. Then, in February 2026, 17 years after Christine Ross and her dog made the original discovery, Albuquerque police announced something no one expected. Movement. A new search warrant had been served. Additional ground and aerial searches were underway. Detectives had gone back through regional cold cases, looking for connections that older technology or disconnected records might have missed. APT said it had now received 1,569 tips. Police didn't say who the warrant targeted. No arrest. No new forensic evidence announced. No confirmation of which suspect, if either, it concerned. But after 17 years, they were still searching. Perhaps Lorenzo Montoya was responsible. Perhaps Joseph Blee knew more than he ever admitted. Perhaps the real name has never been made public at all. None of those possibilities has been proven. What's certain is that 11 women disappeared, and for years the desert kept the secret. They were eventually identified. Their families were given a place to mourn, and their names were placed permanently on a memorial. But identification is not the same as justice. Somewhere out there is a vehicle someone once saw near the Mesa, a name mentioned in passing years ago, a photograph, a conversation that felt unimportant at the time. This entire case began with one woman noticing a single object beside a trail. One observation uncovered 11 forgotten lives, and one more piece of information may finally reveal who tried to hide them beneath the West Mesa.